Welcome to the Survivor's Voice, where resilience meets hope. I'm your host, Angie Sador. I'm sitting here with our producer and editor, Christina Elder.
Thank you so much, Angie. It's definitely a different experience being on this side of the room.
Yes.
But I am really grateful for the opportunity to talk to our listeners a little bit. I just want to say really quick that this show has really changed me hearing these stories. It's a real reminder of the realities of this world, the horrifics of the world, but also that healing is not just about surviving. Healing is about being heard, being validated, being understood by people.
Yeah. And that's what the Survivor's Voice is all about.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I love that we've been able to create a space for our guests where they can be heard and validated and understood.
Yes.
I'm actually really excited and very humbled by the feedback we've gotten from our guests actually about how great of an experience they've had.
And we've had such just a variety and a range of guests on our show. I mean, we have gone through trafficking and medical trauma, church trauma, war. I mean, just so many different things. And maybe some of our listeners are thinking about telling their story.
That would be so awesome. If that's the case, I would like our audience to know we would be honored and privileged to be able to be the platform for them if they so chose to tell their story.
Yes.
We also believe that every single story can help someone else.
Yes.
That's our whole purpose here. Our listeners should know that you don't need to be a speaker. You don't even necessarily need to be past your trauma. You just have to show up. So if listening to this is maybe making your heart beat a little faster, maybe that's a sign that you need to contact us, that maybe you can help somebody else with your story.
If you feel led to speak, we're ready to listen. So reach out to us at booking@thesurvivorsvoice.net. Your story matters here because your voice is your power. Today on The Survivor's Voice.
My mom had men kind of coming and going. Every family's like this, right? I only have one little scar left on my hand. I put my hand out to stop. And that's when my mom, I was 18, she forced me to have an abortion.
The content shared on the Survivor's Voice podcast is intended to be informative and inspirational. We are not licensed therapists, counselors, or medical professionals. The views expressed are based on personal experiences and should not be considered professional advice. If you are in need of mental health support, please consult a licensed professional. Before we begin, this episode may contain discussions of trauma, abuse, or other sensitive topics. Listener discretion is advised. We don't recommend playing this show with young children present, and we encourage you to prioritize your well-being. Welcome to the Survivor's Voice. I'm your host, Angie Sador. We're so grateful that you have joined us today. I'm here today with my dear friend, Jessica, and we are going to get into her story. I'm looking forward to hearing all the hope and encouragement she's going to share with all of us today. So, Jessica, thank you so much for being on the Survivor's Voice.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we dig into your story, I would just love for you to just share who Jessica is today. What do you do? What's your life like right now?
I'm a bookkeeper by trade, so that is my main business. I'm a mom, a wife, a follower of Jesus. I created a tallow skincare line out of a hobby as I'm becoming an empty nester. It's kind of weird. Like, what does my life look like without just being a mom and running kids and literally being at their beck and call at all times?
Yeah, and that's going really well.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. I cannot complain. Been very blessed starting a business. It's been almost 3 years now. I started my bookkeeping business. Totally scared. I got let go of a job, came home and I was crying and I was like, what am I going to do? Well, I know books.
Yeah.
And so I started reaching out to another friend of mine and she started putting me in connections with clients from all over the country and helping her out a little bit with her books. And I started growing. And within 4 months, I had a goal of this is what I want to make to replace. And I succeeded that and just continued to grow.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I've been very blessed in that manner. Moved back up to North Idaho. I'm from Central Idaho. I guess it's been almost 2 years now.
Okay.
And so with that, I took another position managing another business. So let a few of my clients go. And with the good Lord's will, I have walked away from that and continued to just grow my bookkeeping business. And now I'm able to do some more nonprofit work, which has been exciting. And yeah, starting to really embrace this empty nest 40s life. It's kind of it's new space.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. So first, I just want to dig into your childhood.
Yeah.
So let me know, tell me, what was your upbringing?
Yes, it started off traumatic before I even entered the world.
Okay.
I was born to two teenage parents. My mother was 16, my dad was 17. And it was a very toxic family that was born into. Loving family, but lots of drugs, lots of drinking, and just kind of, it was the 80s. So there was, health wasn't something that was important.
Yeah.
I think in that era. And wonderful people. I mean, I don't want to take that away from my family, that they were wonderful, loving people, but very roughnecks. My grandparents had ran bars.
Okay.
So my mother had grown up in a bar. My dad came from a single mom home. And so I was a product of lust one night. It was kind of, my mother did not want to keep me. So she wanted to have an abortion. My grandmother talked her out of it. And in the meanwhile, we moved from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, up to Anchorage, Alaska, which I don't know if you know about Alaska much.
Not a whole lot.
It's rough.
Really?
There's lots of, it's dark, half of the year.
Oh my gosh.
So the depression's to the roof. So the drinking and the drugs and just the abuse is something that I really didn't know about until the older I had gotten. But that's where I was born, up in Anchorage.
Okay.
My dad, unfortunately, everyone asks me why my name is spelled funny.
Yeah.
Well, my dad may have been under the influence the
Really?
day I was born, and he sounded it out. So it's Jessaca,
Right.
not Jessica.
Yeah.
So
Jessaca.
yeah, Jessaca.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that that it was not spelled right, because I just always had thought.
Yeah.
So so I was born to teenage parents up in Anchorage, in a very unhealthy environment.
Okay.
So not knowing what a good family was until I got much older.
Sure.
One of the very first stories that I can remember from when it comes from trauma, and I guess, I think it's, one of the first stories I remember being told as a child was I was severely beaten when I was 10 months old.
Really?
By my mom's first husband. So she had left my father. She had met this other guy, took off with him. So at this point, she's not even barely 17 years old, ins up getting married. And I get severely beaten because he wanted nothing to do with me. So by the time the cops had showed up, my grandparents had showed up, I was in the crib crying, beaten, like black and blue.
9 months old.
Yes. And so I think that really shaped a lot of, I've struggled with physical intimacy and being touched for a very long time. So
Do you know what he did to you?
I don't. My grandmother's passed. It's something that my mother still doesn't want to recognize or talk much about.
What kind of a man beats a baby?
Right. That I was, from what my grandmother said, I was black and blue.
Oh my God.
And so I'm like, and I never realized how much that affected me, or I put much thought into it until the older that I've got, the older I've gotten, as I've been now going to be, grandma in the next couple of years, I hope, of how that can really shape somebody from such a small age.
Yeah.
Move forward. We moved back to Idaho when I'm about 2.5. My father stays up there because they are no longer together. So my mother and my grandparents moved back to Idaho. My grandparents were my primary caretaker. My mother just did not have the capability with her age and her maturity. I mean, I put myself in her shoes often because she was so young, going, man, what was I doing at 19?
Yeah.
I was not being a mom.
No.
And nor was she. So
Yeah.
my grandparents were my primary caretakers. And I'm so grateful that I at least had that stability.
Yeah.
But my mother had gotten married to my second stepfather when I was 5. And that's where my little brother had come in the picture. And then she'd gotten divorced from him when I was 8. And so unfortunately, that's where I believe a lot of the abuse started. We would go to people's houses and I would get left for weeks at a time.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not sure. I mean, maybe
Like strangers?
they were family friends or people that my mom had partied or my dad had partied with back in here locally. And I mean, it may not have been longer than, a weekend, but as a little kid, when you get left and you have no idea, you have no parent, you don't know your grandmother's phone number,
Oh my gosh.
and you're stuck at a stranger's house that the place is, not a good place to be at.
And
I
where,
mean,
where would your mom go?
she would go on benders.
Okay.
Yep, she would go on benders for I say weeks at a time. There was one time I remember she had gotten a DUI here on the freeway, and nobody really knew. I'm sure the adults knew, but like as a kid, we weren't told.
Yeah.
What happened to my mom or our mom at that time. I had a little brother at this point now too. So, yeah. So from that, it turned into it was a party every single weekend. It was lots of abuse. My mom had men kind of coming and going because I'm sending compassion and grace to her,
Yeah.
but she was trying to grow up. I mean, she's in her early 20s. My grandpa's passed away in this time. She's had 2 divorces and has another child. Doesn't have a clue how to really be a parent. Unfortunately, my grandparents, it was kind of a product of their environment. They were heavy drinkers. They had the bars. That's all they knew too was the party.
Yeah.
So every weekend, only thing I remember is just, the drinking, the stale smoke. Lots of music was always played. Our family was very musically inclined, but then the fights would break out between, my uncle maybe beating on my mother, other people in the family fighting. Like I didn't know
Physical fighting.
that wasn't normal.
Yeah.
Like I just thought like this was something that every family's like this, right?
Right.
Well, as I've gotten a little bit older, and I think by about 3rd grade, I realized that my family was not necessarily normal. And I've come to the understanding there's no normal family,
No.
but
No.
the level of abuse was definitely above normal.
So when you were left alone at these people's houses, did anything happen to you while you were by yourself?
Yes. More physical abuse. I remember like any male was allowed to like whoop us or
Oh my God.
and I look now and I'm like I probably would be in jail for someone just wanting to whoop my child for no reason. It was until just this last year I realized that I was sexually abused as well by cousins and a step grandpa that I had. But God had kept that from me for a very long time, I think, until I was able to really acknowledge it and accept it for what it was.
Yeah.
And, how do you tell somebody that's what's going on when you really don't know and you think it's normal?
Sure.
You have no idea that these things that were happening were not normal, not okay.
Yeah.
But I didn't have an adult in my life that I could go talk to or confide in, unfortunately.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So by about the age 10 is when I started really realizing that these things weren't normal. I was very blessed to have 2 very wonderful people that God had placed in my life that were safe people for me at that point. Still very close with one of them. One has passed on, but I really feel like they were the ones that I would go to. I lived with what I call my mom, Cheryl, a few times throughout my life. And she was kind of my safe spot. She was another single mom that was raising her boys that was just kind of the safe.
How did you meet her?
Well, we bought some property and she was a single mom and she bought property behind us and she was into horses. And I was 8 years old and I was like, oh, well, she had 2 boys and we lived in the middle of nowhere, up in the sticks back in the day that if you had someone that was 10 acres over, you were going to play with those kids.
Yeah.
And so I started playing with her boys. Now I call them my brothers because I feel like they were the closest thing I had to a normal family and my brothers. And I had gotten in a really bad horse accident. We had brought this crazy thoroughbred home when my mom's boyfriends had brought this horse home. And he said, well, you can ride it. Well, she took off running with me. And being from the racetrack, she'd finally had gotten healthy because she was severely starved.
Oh my God.
And she ran away with me down about 1.5 miles. And the more I pulled back, and I was bareback.
Oh my God.
I see. I was in 6th grade. So I was 10, 11 years old. Pulling back, and the faster the horse ran, I kept thinking, okay, if I drop a rein, she steps on it, she might break it. Maybe we'll fall, or if I could jump off. Well, I never did. Well, Mom Cheryl, had gotten off work and turned onto the road, and she sees this horse running with this little girl on her back. So she pulls out in front of it to try to get it to stop. Well, the horse darts around her truck, and now we've hit the highway. So she's got shoes on. She slipped, and we slid across 4 lanes of highway.
Oh my God.
I had 2 cars come to a screeching halt. I only have one little scar left on my hand. I put my hand out to stop. But by the grace of God, I lifted my knee up, or I probably would have shattered my leg. And the horse had broken ribs when she'd gotten up. And so Cheryl puts it in reverse and comes flying backwards. And She goes, only thing I see is this little girl standing there in the middle of the highway holding a horse, like not crying, just like, what had happened?
Wow.
And so she leads me home, like has a horse out the window and drives me back to my house. And I remember getting severely beat by my mom's boyfriend for letting the horse run away with me.
Oh my God.
And I was like, so at that point, I was like, I was scared to death to tell anybody ever after that of if something were had happened, or, I mean, it was literally, I had done nothing wrong. I had just was on a runaway horse, but that was when Cheryl and I became really close. I was never going to ride again. I was scared to death at that point of like, I'm never getting on a horse again.
Understandable. Oh my gosh.
So she had this old horse that she had growing up, and she's like, hey, I want you to come ride this horse. And so it kind of almost became my therapy. And it was just kind of this place I got to go be me. And so I started doing tons of horse events. She started taking me to play days. I'll never forget my very first one was up in Bonner's Ferry on this old horse, and he didn't even know what was going on, but he was safe.
Yeah.
And so he kind of became just like my best friend, and I became an avid horse cowgirl. Since then, it's not as much of a passion as mine anymore now, but it helped get me through, junior high and high school and then through my 20s.
Who knew you were getting equine therapy?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough to, have had her, and that was kind of our big meeting. She knew who I was because I'd play with her boys and we'd build forts and whatnot. But I don't think she even knew what she was giving me at that point.
Does she know now?
Yes. Yes. Actually, we're currently roommates. She's getting ready. Yeah. She's getting ready she retires today. Today's her retirement day. She is going to Arizona to go travel with her horses.
Oh my God.
And so we're there to caretake the rest of the animals while she's gone.
Wow.
Because she has a horse addiction. And and so it fits well that, it was all in God's timing that now we're back caretaking for her. And
oh my God.
we've remained very close. She calls me her daughter. She couldn't have any more kids after she had her son because she had a hysterectomy. And so I just became this daughter that she never got to have. And so I always thank God every day for somebody that, who could have ever thought this other single mom that was struggling just to kind of make ends meet too. All of a sudden there's this little girl that all of a sudden is just going to walk into her life, and
wow,
been there ever since.
What about your brother?
My little brother and I don't have much of a relationship at all because of his drug use. So he did not get it as lucky as I did. He did not have those people in his life. But my mother was a little bit older, when she had him. I think she was 22. I mean, older. She was 22 years old.
Yeah.
But she has enabled him with his story. He started getting in trouble about 12, 13 years old. And I was old enough at that point. I was kicked out of my mother's house at 16. So I had gotten married and pretty early on, just kind of, I wanted some kind of stability.
Sure.
So my little brother, just started making some real bad choices, and I didn't agree with them. And me being the one that had raised him really until I was 16 years old, that was always hard for me. I always want what's best, and he's got a beautiful heart. And I really hope that one day he might seek the help that he needs and come to know the Lord and know that he doesn't have to be chained to his addiction and to things that, he feels guilty and shame for. Like, God is good and he will redeem him through it, but it's going to take a lot of surrender for that. So we have no relationship just because of his drug use and his lifestyle. I became very protective over my children when it came to, as I became a mom and wanted different for my family, I started setting boundaries and, drawing some lines in the sand. And there was a few incidences where my children were put in harm's way. And I just, I told my mother, like, you put us in harm's way, but I'll be damned if you're going to put my kids in harm's way.
Yeah.
So
do you still have a relationship with your mom?
I do not. This is fairly new. It was a long, hard battle to finally set some hard boundaries. I still am hopeful that she will come to know the Lord and want to get help. But I had to kind of come to the realization that I wouldn't let a stranger speak to me the way my mother spoke to me, that I wasn't going to let my mother speak to me that way.
Yeah. Does she still live?
She does. Yep. There's times I pull in the post office and I will pull right back out because she's there.
Wow.
Just 'cause I know it will not be a good conversation.
Yeah.
I don't hold or harbor any anger or hate towards her. She was a product of her environment and unfortunately stopped mentally maturing at 16. I think when she'd had me. So I give grace to that as I have a daughter about that age myself,
Yeah.
that, you can only have an argument with a child and not get anywhere before you're like, this is pointless. So I hope one day that maybe we can have a relationship, but I was always told that my abuse didn't happen, that I was never beat on. I was never sexually abused. I was never emotionally abused. And unfortunately, my mother was the one that was at hand. She was my biggest abuser, from going to school with black eyes to split open lips.
So she would physically hit you?
We would physically fight.
Oh, my gosh.
And most of the time, it was because I was standing up for something happening. Lots of time there wasn't any normalcy in our life. And so it was me standing up to her being like, you can't, have these guys coming and going. I mean, I'm 10 years old.
Oh, my gosh.
Telling her, like,
You're
Mom,
mothering her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you can't have these guys coming over. It's not safe for us. And it would turn into like a drag out fight. Wow. And I'm like, I can't even imagine of defending myself. And by about 14 is when I had just really started fighting back. Like, I was defending myself. I wasn't going to be allowed to be beat on by her or her boyfriends anymore.
Yeah.
Her boyfriends had free will to punish us, parent us any way they so choose.
Wow.
The people that I've met after high school even are like, we had no idea, but you were this, like, the toughest girl I'd ever met. And I was like, well, because in my world, you couldn't be weak.
Oh.
I had a couple cousins that were very soft spoken as we went through this, and they're in a very different place than I am today. So I feel like the good Lord gave me some ability to be strong and to be a fighter.
Yeah.
But it definitely doesn't serve me anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, but I can see that strength in you, but it's not unhealthy. It's a good strength.
I remember my mom always telling me, well, you were so strong, Jess. I never had to worry about you.
You're
And
like,
I'm like,
thanks for making me that way.
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I had to stand up for myself. There was times that, I was fighting it back against you being, strung out and intoxicated, to whatever boyfriend you had at the time in and out of the house that was physically beating on me or my brother or you.
Jeez.
There was times that, I'd get up in the morning after hiding my brother and I in the closet because a party had broken out, and then the fight had followed and the cops were called, hiding in my closet, getting up to see my whole house destroyed. And so, they talk about the poverty and other parts of the world, but they don't think they really talk about the white, I hate to say this word, but the white trash. Like the poverty within the white community.
Yeah.
Especially up here back in the day. We were the meth capital of Idaho, but I think of a lot of the United States. And that, unfortunately, I was one of those kids living in those types of houses, filth. There was time that I remember our power got shut off on Easter one year. And I remember, like, how do we get our power back on? So my mom's calling ex-mother-in-laws to see if they'll pay the power bill because she's pissed whatever money she had away instead of paying an electricity bill. Lots of our food came from food banks. We were the kids that had the paper food stamps. That I remember, going to the store and seeing the look on people's faces. I knew that we weren't normal. Not everybody had that.
Yeah.
But coming from that, you don't know any different until you start getting a little bit older. You start kind of looking around. You're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like, this is interesting. You get looked at different.
Right.
So in junior high is when I think the turning point hit for me, when I realized I smelled like smoke at school. And I kind of started looking, it was after my horse accident, so 6th grade to junior high, that I thought, man, I wished somebody would step in and save us. You see kids coming to school with a black eye or a split open lip or bruises. Like, what's wrong?
Nobody said anything.
Nobody stepped up. Nobody protected us. And so, unfortunately, I had a poor vision of, like, adults.
Yeah.
Like, because if I saw a kid that was like that today, you better believe. I'm like, okay, we're going to start tracking this down. We're making some phone calls.
Yep.
No teacher ever did, or no other adult. And I think it was a very common thing that happened in our neck of the woods. I mean, we were in the backwoods of Athol, Idaho. It was, now the property's worth a lot. You couldn't give it away.
Oh my God.
Like, that was where, like, the poor people lived. And we were far enough out that everyone kind of turned and looked the other way. And so I've seen a few teachers now that I had, and I've asked them, did you know? And they said, no, you hit it so well. Because you separate yourself. It's almost like a disassociation.
Okay.
You separate yourself from what's going on. So I never missed a day of school. I remember walking to the bus in the pissing rain and the snow And walking home, it was almost a mile to our house.
Wow.
And I'm like, what in the world? You know? So, but I have to say, it wasn't all bad. I mean, I did get the pleasure of horses, and that was a huge lifesaver for me. And there were some good memories. But overall, it was I couldn't wait to escape.
Yeah.
I always wanted to go to the big city. I wanted to have blow up furniture. I don't know why, in my own studio apartment. I don't know why I thought blow up furniture was cool in high school. And that's what adults had, because I mean, we had stuff from Goodwill or what, was given to us at that time. But I couldn't wait to get out. And so by the time I graduated, I'd been kicked out, lived, kind of couch bounced for a little bit in 16 to almost 18, and lived back with Mom Cheryl. And then my mom baited me, my mother did, to come home. She was going to pay for my senior pictures. And knowing I wasn't going to be able to pay because I was going to school, playing sports, and had a job. Because I was like, well, this is what you have to do to get out of this.
Yeah.
So I moved back home for a little bit. Ended up getting pregnant with my high school sweetheart. And that's when I was 18. She forced me to have an abortion. She did. And so that was kind of like, well, she's my mother. So you still have this.
You trust her.
You trust her.
Yeah.
She's the adult.
Yes.
So come to find out, she, pushed me. We went and had it done. She'd had 2 after I was born, from what I was told.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, so this was a form of birth control. That guilt, man, that took me. I don't think I'd ever told anybody until my now husband at almost 30 years old. And I was so guilt-ridden with that. And I see that as a form of abuse.
100%.
And I'd never seen it that way before.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have words for it.
Yeah.
I was scared. I was ashamed. I had this guilt. And then when I became a mother, oh man, I mean, like that was a lot.
Yeah.
Because I was like, who would ever do this?
Oh my God.
Who would ever do this? So that's when I had my son I was 22 and I had him, and I had my daughter at 26. And that's where I really wanted to seek help. When I had my daughter, I was told I was having a girl. I was just completely terrified. I was like, I can't have a daughter because it's going to be the same way my mom and I's relationship is.
Oh my
And
God.
I do not want that. So my daughter was 2 weeks old the first time I started going and seeking help, and had one of the best counselors ever. But I didn't realize until she had about 4 pages on me, my very first session with her. She goes, how are you not in prison? And how are you not a drug addict?
No kidding.
And I'm looking at her, I'm like, I don't know. And then I started diving into my biological father was locked up when I was 5. So he spent my entire childhood in prison.
Wow.
Yeah. So statutory rape.
Oh my God.
He was young man, early 20s. She was a runaway. I remember meeting her before he got locked up. She was so nice. She was a runaway. She was not 18. And in the state of Idaho, you have to be 18.
Yeah.
So yeah, he spent the majority of my childhood in prison for that. And he'd had some other drug charges and had been in trouble as a young man as well. So it was just kind of this snowball effect at that point. And then he kept getting himself in trouble. So it kind of just kept him in there a little bit longer.
Do you still have a relationship with him?
I do. He has grown and changed so much. I think all of the counseling in there. And then afterwards, he has owned everything.
Yeah.
He's never once said that
he was the victim.
No. He's like, honestly, I don't deserve to even be called your dad.
Ugh.
And I'm like, but Dad, you gave me life. And so we are very close, against a lot of my family's wishes because they wanted to make him out to be the bad guy.
Of course.
And I was like, well, if anything, thank goodness he got locked up because he couldn't make any more poor choices.
It's the best thing for him.
Yeah. As much as it's interesting to see someone that spent their life incarcerated, what their life has been like and the struggles that they have been put through. 20 years is a long time to be almost locked up.
Wow.
I think actually with parole violations and whatnot, it's been 20 to 25 years of him locked up. And I'm only 40, I'll be 42.
Wow.
So yeah, so the majority of my life he spent in prison, but he's been doing really well. I mean, he has his struggles like, all of us do still, but he's owned everything and we are extremely close.
Yeah. I think we've had this conversation before of, there's men that have done the same thing and they don't take responsibility for it. And they're the victim.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet that's hard for you to.
Sometimes, yeah, for sure. Because I was a little girl that had her dad taken from her,
Yeah.
because of the choices he had made, and he never didn't ever say that it didn't happen. It was just unfortunate with the culture, I guess, back in the early '90s here. That's just kind of his past had haunted him, and he had a pretty traumatic childhood. He was abused on many different levels as a young boy, with his mother as well.
Oh my gosh.
And so, yeah, it was just this very toxic person meeting my mother that had come from her own, toxicity as well, creating this child
Yes.
that was brought into this situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Holy
Yeah.
crap, girl. I had no idea.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's I'm so thankful, I guess, for his journey, and to go watching him grow and change.
Mm.
And also, what my mother has brought to it as well, because I have been able to heal and address a lot of things that they weren't strong enough to address from their family, from the ties that I believe that I was put here to break. And so with the Lord, he's shown me over this last couple years where he was at in all of this. Because I'm like, I was telling everybody, like, the Lord you know and the Lord I know are different. What do you mean? I was like, well, I met him in the closet. He was my friend.
Mm.
And people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, when there's such chaos and such abuse going on within the home, and that can be, things as much as I was told what a whore I was at the age of 12. I didn't know what that word even meant.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is my mom telling me that? Anyways, it was her regurgitating and a lot of her feelings, and the road that she
Rejecting
had
it.
gone down. Yeah. And I was kind of like, oh, I don't want to be like that. So I was very straight laced, did good grades, played sports. But unfortunately, about 14, I started turning to fill that void that I didn't have for a dad, and started, sleeping around. Typically with boyfriends and stuff, trying to fill that dad hole that I desperately had missed.
Yeah.
But it was like, well, if you're gonna call me this, I might as well live up to it, right? So yeah, it was. I can't imagine speaking to my daughter, and saying those things, of like speaking into, this is who you're gonna be.
Yeah.
So it would have been very easy for me to continue down the path that my parents had, but I definitely felt like I was given certain attributes from the Lord to break these, and to let girls know that you don't have to be a product of your environment.
Yeah.
I see so many young kids like, well, I don't have these things. My home life is so rough, and I'm like, man, you got a new phone, you're driving a new car, your hair is pink, and you might wear the pajamas to school every day, but you don't have to follow in their shoes.
No.
Like it's hard to break the curse, I feel.
Yeah.
But it's doable.
Yeah, it is doable.
And I feel like there is so much hope that can be extended from. We had a nephew living with us when we first moved out to start caretaking, and him and his girlfriend were like, well, you just don't get it. My mom's incarcerated and all these things. I said, honey, let's have a conversation. And then she goes, well, you look so normal. And I was like, yeah, there's been a lot of healing.
Yeah.
But I was pretty good at hiding behind a lot of it. And I worked multiple jobs when I was, pregnant with my son. We had the house, we had what looked like a pretty normal life, but behind closed doors, I was not a very great person to live with. I was terrible to my first husband. Been married, divorced, married my second time now. Because I didn't know how to deal with the trauma. I didn't know how to deal with these things. And it was just like, well, it's just normal. Just your family. Just, you don't think about the past. It doesn't define who you are. Just move forward. And bless his heart, he was a wonderful person. But yeah, I was extremely difficult to live with. And I don't think the most patient mother. It took me going back and now apologizing to my 2 biological children and to my 2 stepchildren, because they unfortunately came into the tornado, and I had turned into this very angry person. By about 31, I was probably the most angry, mean person. The drop of the hat, everyone had to walk on eggshells. My husband now didn't know what he was ever going to walk into. And I had no idea why I was that way. And I didn't want to be like that anymore.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I need to start digging and unfolding and seeing what this is. And it went clear back to my childhood that a lot of people don't want to address.
From 9 months old.
From 9 months old. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but not being able to put all those pieces together. Like I knew I had a very traumatic childhood and I hid a lot of it, but I felt like so many people around me had the same. I had so many friends that I saw, you know, their dads treating their mothers the same way. The drugs and the drinking and the abuse was all very similar.
Wow.
But what it manifested inside of me was, a lot of anger. There was times I was screaming, treating my children the same way that I was treated because I didn't have a good example.
Sure.
Like
That's
that's
what you were
all I
taught.
knew. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until I remember I grabbed my son, I threw him up against the wall. I think he was about 12. I'll never ever forget it. I really regret it. But I was just screaming at him. I remember afterwards I had to go apologize. I just said, but I'm sorry. I never ever meant to put my hands on you. But I'm so thankful that him and I are close and he has forgiven me. And I think without him, I probably wouldn't have went on this healing path that I went on because I wanted to have a better relationship with him than I had with my parents. And I also wanted to let him know that how I treated him, me getting heavy-handed, touching him, screaming at him the way I did, that wasn't okay. Like that is parenting from a place of fear and from a place of shame and guilt of me not having the tools to be a mother.
Yeah.
And it was honestly until we moved back up here, and it was the Lord moving us back up here, that I had to really face a lot of how I treated them and be like, man, and just go and plead and ask for forgiveness of like, guys, I didn't have that example growing up and it wasn't okay for how I treated you. And my son was, Mom, it's okay. And I was like, please accept the apology and know that it was not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want this to be passed on to my grandchildren. And with that, I feel like the chains have been broken.
Mm.
And now he's engaged and we have this beautiful relationship that he calls. He's like, Mom, I want to talk about this or I want to talk about that. And I love that I have opened those doors for this open relationship and he knows that he's safe.
Yes.
And that he's seen. And if I've made a mistake, I will come ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because us as parents, we're not always right. And it's okay to be like, I really fucked up today.
Yeah. How old is your son now?
My son is 19.
Okay.
Yep, my son is 19, and I have a stepson that's 21, stepdaughter that's almost 18, and then my daughter is 15.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Brady Bunch.
Yeah. You have such a great relationship with your daughter that I never would have guessed that you had such a difficult past.
Yeah, and it was honestly, I think having them, like God gave me them to heal and to mature. Because I said I was scared to death. I remember going to my counselor. Her name was Judy Kimes, and she was up in Sandpoint. And I never had met somebody that was like, you have PTSD because of the trauma never stopped. It was always abuse every weekend. I dreaded the weekends as a child, and even in high school, because I was like, the party's gonna happen, the house is gonna be destroyed. My mom's probably going to have a black eye or broken bones again. Like someone's going to be beating the hell out of her once again.
And it was meth all the time.
Not just all the time. I remember my dad said he had called one time from prison and I got to talk to him. I think I was like 9. That I remember finding a mirror and, the Coke, everything. And I had no idea. And I was like, Dad, I'm not sure what this stuff is. I remember him telling me, I talked to your mom after that and said, you know what? She is one effed up parent. She does not need to be having 2. So you need to pull your head out. And he had no idea. I mean, granted, he was incarcerated. He wasn't the right person to be a parent either. But he never thought that I had that for a mother. Or my baby sister had that for a mother as well. That there was the abuse and the drugs and the partying that he now was away from. But us girls lived it every single day.
So you have a half sister?
I do. I have a half sister. She lives up in Alaska.
Okay.
Yep. And her and I just reconnected. I've met her twice.
Oh my God.
In my entire life. It's funny how much we look alike. but she is 37, 38, so a couple years younger.
Okay.
But yeah, if you would not have known, we were cookie cutters of the same experiences in life she had, I had. So my dad definitely had a type, not knowing it.
Okay. So it was your dad's child.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep. So now she's reconnected with him as well.
Okay.
And so that's been beautiful watching this relationship, because he's like, I never thought she'd ever have anything to do with me.
Wow.
So yeah, that's kind of been neat to start seeing pieces of the family that I've never had.
Mm.
Kind of, it's not what I envisioned or what I wanted. Because I think we are told you're supposed to have a mom and dad, a normal family, here are the holidays, like
Yeah.
everything's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, my family, like there's times I feel like I don't have a family. My family has been chosen people like Mom Cheryl, that, wasn't somebody that ever asked to have, Jess and the kids and the baggage that go with it. But they have walked a lot of almost this whole entire journey with me.
Wow.
So there's been, many times where I've felt like I'm a product of this. This is all I'm ever going to be. But God showed me about a year and a half ago, right before we moved, that he was with me through all of it. Like he showed me, we had a very visual encounter, and we literally walked through my whole childhood. And I was like, I remember going and waking my husband up, crying middle of the night. It was like 4 a.m. We didn't make church the next day. And he was like, what's going on? I'm like, you need to come visit with me. I got some stuff I need to share with you.
He didn't know?
Well, he knew. I had just never really let him in to the very vulnerable spots that when you're told you're strong, you put a wall up.
Yeah.
And you don't let people get real close. And so I had finally let him in, and it was a roller coaster of letting him see this very vulnerable spot of me. And then we had a bunch of things happen down in central Idaho, that forced us to move back up here. And it was kind of like I hit a pretty depressive spot about this time last year, that I was like, what's going on? I started seeing some good doctors, and it was deep soul healing.
Wow.
It was like, and that's when it was revealed to me that I was sexually abused. And it makes sense. I do not like to be touched. I do not like to be snuggled at night. Like, don't touch me. I'll wrap myself in blankets or pillows. And that is security for me. I still sleep kind of like in a fetal position. I tuck everything. And that's just a security. And it's still this fight or flight mechanism for me. So still working with a lot of learned traits from early on.
Yeah.
Which I never really, you never think that they would come back and haunt you at 40 some years old. I'm like, what?
I know, right?
Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
how does this still happen? How these things I did to survive at this young age are still how my body is, how it sleeps, how it likes to be touched, how I struggle with letting people actually love me because I don't believe them. I'm like, well, when you're told your parents love you and they don't protect you,
Yeah.
then you don't believe like love is real to that. My husband always says, you struggle with letting me love you. And that was like that with my first marriage as well. And I didn't understand what those words really meant until more recently. Of like, oh, that's a survival mechanism for me.
Yeah.
Like, I will love you and I will love deep, but you aren't going to get close to me.
Wow. So has your marriage changed any?
It is definitely getting better. I'm trying to step more into my feminine side.
Yeah.
Because I've been in this masculine energy
Your whole
so
life.
long, my whole life.
Yeah.
Because you had to survive. And when you're told, well, you're just strong, you really start to believe it. And then there was a while that I hated if someone says, oh, you're just so strong. I'm like, I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I've never had a choice with really anything in my life. And so I'm learning to choose what I say yes to, what I say no to now. And yeah, choosing not to be in survival mode all the time. And it's really hard to retrain your nervous system to go, I'm safe. Even when things happen, I will still immediately go to that fight or flight place.
Yep.
Of to go, okay, no, you're safe. Nothing's going to happen. And it's weird, even sitting here speaking with you right now, my stomach's just shaking.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because there's even times I'll see a car wreck on the road and I will immediately go to this startlement, and it's such a weird place to go, no, you're fine. You can talk about these. They don't have to control you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Wow. I love the restoration between you and your dad. I think that's huge. Is there anything that you would like to tell our guests to really encourage them if there's a young person listening right now that's going through that their household is just as chaotic as yours was growing up. Is there anything that you would tell that person that would let them know that there's hope?
Yeah, for one, there is hope. You do not be a product of your environment whatsoever. Um, I think we have to follow in our parents' footsteps. But if your home is toxic, if your home is not safe, um, once you become an adult, you get to make those choices, and it's ultimately up to you. At that point, you can't blame your parents anymore for how you behave or what your life is turned into. And I think, unfortunately, that is a lot of what my younger sibling, my brother in particular, struggles with, is wanting to blame our parents or lack thereof for our situation.
Yeah.
And you can up until you're 18. Yeah. But you are the one that's in power. You are the one that can change your outcome and what your future looks like.
Yeah.
It's okay to set boundaries with parents. I think there's a big thing in our society right now where well, they're your parents. You can't do that. I always remind my children and I ask, when there's things like this, would you let a stranger speak to you that way? Would you let a stranger tell you that you're not good enough or scream at you or talk to you like you don't matter?
Yeah.
The answer is always no.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, let's ask. Just because they biologically brought you into this world does not mean that they get to talk to you or treat you like you are a child, because you are an adult.
Yeah.
And you are an equal at that point. So, yes, you do not have to be a product of your environment. You can change that. And I truly believe that I was brought into this world and given all of these situations and experiences and stories to help somebody else.
Mm.
Because I didn't think that there was help or hope. Did I have a few good people around me? Yep, I did. And I was given opportunities, but I also had to really seek it out. And you are who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, so true.
You want to hang out with kids that want to go do bad things and get in trouble, the more likely you're going to be associated and sucked into that. And I had my fair share of those type of kids around me, but I really chose to not run with that crowd. Drugs would have been very easy, but since my dad was in prison, I was always told well, they're going to associate your last name with his last name. So my mother changed my last name in kindergarten to reflect my new stepdad, even though I was never legally adopted, because in the small town that we were in, my dad went to school there too. And it was a small town. This is where the trial was heard. Everyone was going to associate that I was his daughter. And so my junior year, I realized that I was never legally adopted. And actually, I was sophomore because I had to get my driver's license. So I had to go back to my biological last name.
Yes.
And so a lot of kids know me as one through junior high and elementary school. And then through high school, like, wait a minute, who's that? It's because I had to go back to my
real name.
Yeah, my real name.
Yeah.
And I was like, so that's kind of where I'm at now. Is I'm not going to hide from my story or hide from what made me. Because there's a lot of beautiful things that, the people that knew me in school and in high school, there's been a lot of healing and changing since. And I apologize for the horrible things I said or did out of a survival mechanism, not having those, those positive people in my life as a young lady, but that there's hope. God redeems. And I'm just so thankful that he has used me in so many different ways and has brought me to my knees more than once to be like, you can't do this life without me.
I know.
And that he was there. Everyone's like, well, how do you know he's real?
Huh.
And I'm like, because ultimately I shouldn't be here. I should be, tracks on my arms and I should be in prison.
Yeah.
To be real honest. I was, by the grace of God, he brought me to where I'm at today, and he continues to use it. And there's, even before I got here today, I was like, God, what am I supposed to share today? Like, why was I asked to come on this? Why am I sitting on this board? Why? And it was because you were to help other people. Just because you weren't, trafficked or something along those lines, you were severely abused. And that's what it is. And there's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing to, want to put my family down about. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say, you know what, we're going to heal and we're going to move on.
Yeah. Is this the first
So,
time you're telling your story?
This is my very first time.
Wow.
So yeah, how do you put it all in a nutshell? It's, I mean, the stories go on, and I just, if I can give hope to one young girl that, that hears this or watches this, to know that you can come on the other side.
Yeah.
I mean, most of my lunches, it was stuff from the food bank. It was, we were the Medicaid. We were the people on the benefits.
Yeah.
And it was, as I look back, I'm like, man, I'm so embarrassed. But that's just, I'm
Thank
glad.
God you guys had that.
But thank goodness we did. We were the family that definitely needed it. But it was unfortunate because my parents had put me in this situation, and it was definitely a lot of their choices. But I am so thankful for, for that assistance at that time. Part of me feels like, yeah, some things could really change. And I wish that someone always would have stepped in and saved me. I think that was a piece that it took me 30 some years to let go of.
Yeah.
Of like, why didn't someone step in and protect me?
Yeah. Oh my
I think
gosh.
many of us survivors can kind of have that same thought and that
Yep,
feeling.
absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm just so honored that you are sharing your story for the first time here.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. It's a really, it's going to sound crazy, but it's a beautiful story.
Well, thank you. It's, yeah, I don't know how you put it all together, because I'm like, on the way in, I was like, how do I put my story together? I don't even know, because it
Yeah,
wasn't
you did
just
a great job.
one single event. It
Yeah.
was literally my entire life.
Wow.
And it was, the chaos never stopped. And that was one thing that I think I really struggled with. And I think a lot of maybe young women that come from that, you create chaos because you don't, when things are quiet and things are normal, they
No.
don't feel normal.
No, it's uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
To just understand that calmness, and that you don't have to live in sheer waiting for something to happen next.
Yeah.
Because you always know what the fight is, but there's that honeymoon phase I call afterwards. And I think many people, they have experienced it, where there's the big fight.
Yeah.
And then there's, oh, things are good for a little bit longer.
Right.
So, yeah, that was, yeah. Unfortunately, the demise of my first marriage and a lot of trouble with my second has been letting go of that chaos, because that's what you lived in. That's what you knew. And it's like, I see that the times I've had to have relationships with my mother trying is where things are okay for a little bit, and then you see the chaos flare back up. And it's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like, my soul has healed enough, and it's like, I don't want to be in this. I call it the tornado. You don't have to be in it. You can step out and go, I'm not participating anymore. Like, I love you and I want you to get help, but I'm not going to be a part of it anymore, because our family went through enough, and without counseling them, without the Lord and surrendering it, you're not going to heal. And I think when you truly do follow the Lord, you have to surrender all those hurts and all of those things and go, I don't hold resentment. I don't hold anger. I just, thank you for making me me, and thank you for my story.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, he's great all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. Oh my God. You're an incredible woman.
Well, thank you. I can't, give enough thanks to the people that Lord puts in my life. Because after moving back up here, I was like, I don't have friends. I don't really know anybody anymore, even though I'm from here. Everyone that knew me, the past me, the broken me, the hurt me, that the person that was hiding, hiding the abortion, hiding this guilt and shame.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching The Survivor's Voice today. I'm just really inspired. There's just nothing. There's nothing. And all these stories that we hear, like, there's nothing that we can't overcome. We all have the opportunity to thrive in life. And there's no excuses. And so if you're feeling like you have an excuse, let's just flip that to a decision to seek out help, a decision to change your mindset and say, you know what? No more. I'm not going to be a victim anymore. And it's a choice. And so I just want to encourage people that are listening right now, make the right decision, because you have no idea what this life can bring you, what this life has to offer. That's good. That's better than what you could ever hope or imagine. And I've never done this before, but maybe you just need to know Jesus. Jesus is the answer. Jesus is who saved my life. And if you don't know him, all you have to do is believe that he's the Son of God and he's the one that died for your sins and rose again. You just have to believe. Just call on his name and you can be rescued. And so I would encourage you to do that as well. And if you're watching on YouTube, if you would subscribe to our channel, it would really help us out. We would love that. We would appreciate that from you. Wherever you're listening, give us a follow and comment. We want to hear from you. And if you want to be on our show, you can reach out to us at booking@thesurvivorsvoice.net. We would love to have you on our show because your story can unlock someone else's prison. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you soon. Safe Harbor is dedicated to helping survivors of trauma find healing and restoration through support, resources, and community. They provide hope for those affected by human trafficking. Visit safeharborforfreedom.com to learn more or support their mission today. Thank you so much, Safe Harbor, for supporting the survivor's voice. Next week on The Survivor's Voice.
I blacked out in the bathroom. I was walking closely with the Lord and just confused.
Thank you for listening to this story on The Survivor's Voice. I'm your host, Angie Sador, reminding you that every survivor's story matters. A heartfelt thank you to our incredible listeners for your support and to the survivor community for your courage and resilience. You are the heart of this show. Special thanks to our producer and editor, Christina Elder, to Bowman Carter for our beautiful song, and to Dan Wise with North Idaho Podcast Productions for bringing these powerful stories to life. Your dedication, talent, and most importantly, your hearts make the survivor's voice possible.